Hello, Transformers fans! Welcome back to the channel for another College TF review. Today we're finally back with another Transformers review, that being the Studio Series Ironhide Voyager class. And we'll take a look at him today. Finally, a Transformer to look at, and this one is definitely a good one. So let's get straight into the review. Is the packaging, and actually real quick, I just want to mention I got mine over at All Time Toy Store. That's where you can pick yours up as well. Check out the links in the description below to pick your Ironhide up and have fun with add him to your Transformers collection. He's definitely, I highly recommend him. Definitely a great addition. And if you like my videos, as always, please remember to like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you stay tuned for the latest updates. And also you can follow me on Instagram. All right, so without further ado, here is the packaging. Your standard Studio Series cardboard packaging. Got the slot in the front, so cool art of Ironhide, and around Studio Series 86 collection from the original Transformers, the movie. There you go, that's packaging. And there is still some more packaging, that being the display stand that we get with Ironhide, which is actually pretty nice. It's from those opening scenes we see where, tragically, Ironhide is shot and killed, but it's still, nonetheless, a great backdrop to use with him in in the shuttle they're using to get to Earth. So there is that background. It's still pretty nice. I will probably keep that around. It's honestly quite nice. And here is Ironhide himself. So again, this is a Voyager class, so we'll get into, price point wise, does he belong there and all that. But first, let's just admire the figure for what it is. And I mean, that head sculpt is fantastic, very reminiscent of the G1 cartoon. I would say definitely a bit better, in my opinion. I like it better than the Morpho Cybertron version. And this guy is like masterpiece looking in his transformation. I mean, the way like all of that folds up. You don't see the bumper or anything on the front of the van there, and it all tucks in. And just the overall side profile, it's all kind of at that angle. It's really impressive. And I mean, basically no backpack. He just has this bumper there, but I mean, it's probably supposed to be there. That's pretty darn close, in my opinion. And paint-wise, this guy doesn't have that much, as he doesn't need that much. He's mainly molded in red plastic, but there is a fair amount of transparent plastic, and that's probably that's the majority of the paint applications, right? So this is red on the transparent plastic there, and it's painted a little bit. I mean, some people don't like the panely look that results in alt mode, but I actually don't think it's that bad. It probably looks worse on camera than it actually is, especially this color discrepancy here. I would actually blame that more to shadowing than anything. It really is not that bad in person. But you do have, some differences due to plastic that's painted versus not. But overall, very nice looking figure. Definitely looks like Ironhide, G1 Ironhide. Very nice. And I would say, and then in terms of, Voyager price point, is there a lot of hollowing? This guy does not have a lot of hollowing. I mean, so there's a little bit of stuff back here, but that's mainly just, I think, so you could attach weapons or something. I actually haven't figured out what those tabs are for. But you do have, some nice detail in there, because this doesn't turn around or anything. So I don't really know what those tabs are for. But anyways, but like otherwise, his legs are all filled in. There's a little bit of hollowing there, definitely. But otherwise, everything's just packed full for transformation. So inside the arms, a little bit there, a little bit of waffling in there, but it's mainly just for the peg. So I definitely love this figure. So we do get 2 weapons with him. Yes, only 2. He is a Voyager. Apparently only means 2 weapons. But they're very nice, and they've been painted silver. Look like what he uses in the movie. They are identical. You get 2 of them. And you can, of course, have them either in his hands or, sorry, I actually do know what these tabs are for, and that is for pegging the guns. So you can peg them onto his back if you so desire. There you go. 2 pegs. Hold his guns. Very nice. Articulation-wise, this guy is definitely pretty packed. I mean, he is a little masterpiece, just about. So you've got ball joint at the head, look all around, then you can kind of use this transformation joint area, so you can get him to look like basically into his chest, or pretty high. You could almost give him a jetpack, and he could be rocking it off if you wanted to. Then he does have full swivel at the shoulder, And then he can go out, and that detail, that is really nice. I really like when they fill in the hollow spaces underneath the joints like that. That is fantastic. And then he does get 90 at the elbow. It can also go a little bit the other way due to transformation. And then the wrist is a swivel, which that's fantastic. We like to see that. And then it also does hinge down. That's just due to transformation. So you do have that option. No ab crunch, of course. This is Hasbro's Pro figure still, but he does have full unhindered waist rotation. So very nice there. Then this skirt does kick out of the way, so you can get him kicking forward that far, back that far, no backpack hindrance of any kind. And then he does get a full 360 thigh swivel, which is a little bit loose, but he's still very posable and doesn't flop over. You get 90 degrees there out of the knee, and then we do get ankle rock, very good degree, and we can also hinge backwards, and you can actually hinge this all over the place due to the way he transforms. So definitely a very posable figure, which is fantastic. Now for some size comparisons, let's get them standing straight. Ironhide be as tall as possible. You gotta convince everyone that you're a Voyager. We have a leader, Optimus Prime, who's basically a Voyager in height. We have a deluxe Bumblebee. Another tiny Voyager, being Hot Rod. And a very big Voyager, that being Prime-inspired Bulkhead. So here you have just some rough size comparisons. So obviously, he is not a deluxe class by any stretch of the, or not a really tiny deluxe class by any stretch of the imagination, right? Him and Bumblebee are very different in size, but they look fantastic together, definitely. Now, I think the big question, the big debate here is he actually a Voyager, right? Should he be in that price point? And I mean, so here he is with Hot Rod. He's definitely bigger than Hot Rod, and Hot Rod definitely should have been a deluxe. Hot Rod is a deluxe. He has really nice engineering. I love this figure very much, but he's a deluxe class. So he was definitely an extra $10 more than he should have been. They packed in some fun accessories with him, definitely, but deluxe class. So that's your comparison with Hot Rod. Then we get into the Voyager scaling of actual Voyager figures, right? So here we have Prime Universe Bulkhead. And I mean, Bulkhead absolutely dwarfs Ironhide here, right? Now, in terms of overall plastic, Ironhide, I mean, weight-wise, Ironhide's heavier. He actually is heavier than Bulkhead because he's just a very dense figure, very well-engineered. So, I mean, I'm willing to pay a higher price for better figures in that case, but, you know, that's a personal preference. And in overall, if you just look at them based on size, you don't consider their weight or their overall feel, yeah, he's a deluxe by comparison, right? He's a big deluxe. Not even that big of a deluxe. I mean, he's pretty standard deluxe. And then, of course, next to Optimus. This is more just for looks. In your G1 collection, how does he look? Yeah, these guys stack up pretty nicely together. Definitely a nice one to add to the collection. But if you're debating that Voyager price point, yeah, I think he's worth it because of how well built he is, and we'll get into that. But I mean, in terms of size, yeah, he's a deluxe class, especially because all you get are 2 blasters, right? And I believe the original War for Cybertron Ironhide was I could be wrong, but I thought that was a deluxe class, not a Voyager. So now the engineering on that was a lot simpler, and probably in weight, I didn't pick that one up because I knew this guy was coming out. So, you know, in terms of weight, he's probably lighter, the War for Cybertron version, that is. So I would say, should have Hasbro made him a Voyager? No, but will I still pay for him? Yes. that's kind of what's going on here. So let's get these guys aside and get into transformation, and we'll do some more comparisons there once we get them into his ult mode, which I think is fantastically done. So to begin with, you just want to take the fists and just hinge them down. They don't actually go all the way in; they just kind of hinge down a little bit. Which again, like, why couldn't they have a little bit more filled out in there? It's a little bit lazy, definitely. But next, we want to you can just hinge this part back and detach the shoulders. And then we just want to separate from the torso there. And then this whole front section will pull out. Like this so. And then we can extend out the hood and fold out these little top window pieces. And it's pretty incredible that all that packs inside of his chest there, right? And he's not a very deep figure. So then I can just fold the head inside. And then we kind of want to leave this out of the way for now. Next, we want to, there's another swivel joint, so we don't want to use the hip joint. We want to use a swivel joint up here to rotate the upper body around like that. Now we can kind of get that back down into there. So there are a few tabs on here, and those do just kind of slide back into the hips like that. Now we can take these arms, and we want to hinge them back, and there is a slight angle to this back piece here. It is at a slight angle, and so you want this to be, the upper part of the shoulders to be flush with that back. So just get those angled in there like that. And again, you're using this joint. You don't want to use the shoulder joint. And then tab these two together. There's just one tab at the front there. Snaps together very nicely. And hinge them down to their max like that. Then next we want to come down to the legs. And I think this is where his transformation is truly incredible because of how much is actually packed up down here. So we want to extend this back part, which will form the back of the van, and open up that part, which is the window section. And then we want to unclip the side of the van here, and then hinge all that forward. And here you can see this is the whole side and back of the van. But how does this get up here? Well, this piece lifts up, and you just rotate all of this whole section up on itself. And there are a few tabs back here that tab everything together. Now those will most likely come undone while we're transforming him, but that is not a problem. Do the same thing, of course, on the other side. So just open up that whole side panel there, and go ahead and open up this back piece and hinge it all up. Push that other tab out of the way. There we go. And then clip all that together like that. And then now we just want to bring everything up. So you can kind of see how the van's going to take shape now. So you just want to kind of bring everything up. And there are a whole bunch of tabs here. So there's one here and one here, which go into the slots on the arms there. And then of course these tab together, which we can go ahead and do. So there's tabs on the bottom, in the middle, and on the top, and on the back. So very secure assembly, snaps in very nicely. And then we can kind of just press all this down, and that all locks into place like that. And make sure this is out of the way, because now we want to bring in these side panels. And there's a little tab here on the end of this piece, which goes into a little slot here. And then these top two panels do tab together once we get everything lined up. So we just want to give it a nice squeeze there. Same thing on the other side. Just tab that in, and then tab those two panels together. Now on my copy, they don't like to stay together that well that's what this piece does. So now we want to tab this all in, and this is probably the worst part of the worst clearance issue that you have on this mold. And overall, there isn't any clearance issues. This is just a little bit tight. Mainly when you're trying to transform back, it could be a little bit tricky, but everything's built very solid, so it's not a big problem. So you have these little tabs here on the front of those pieces, and they actually slide into those openings on the top. So now we're going to bring the hood down. Well, I guess it's the windshield down of the van, and it's just a matter of squeezing everything together now. So we got to get those little tabs lined up, and you can kind of see how it's a little bit of a tricky fit. Just a matter of squeezing everything together and hoping nothing pops apart. It's definitely a bit on the tricky side here. There we go. There's one side. There's the other side. Once you get it, it snaps in very nicely. It just takes a little bit of patience. And then last step, very easy. Just slide that up, locks into place, very nice. And here we have Ironhide in his G1 van mode. And yes, we'll get the elephant out of the room, that being the panel lines there. That's where the transparent plastic is. Now, I would say for how good this looks, and in person, those color discrepancies, yes, they're visible, but I would not say that's what draws my eye. It's the overall, like, just beautiful contour of the van. I mean, it looks fantastic. If you just, I mean, you're gonna have paint mismatches. It's really hard to get that perfect, especially when you have so much paint on this guy, and the overall amount of transparent plastic isn't actually that high. And it's not, the only area where it's slightly concerning, I would say, is right here, where it is a bit tight, like there's a tension going through the whole van there, just between these parts. And then, of course, trying to transform him back is a little bit tricky, but other than that, the transparent plastic where it's used is in a place where it's not likely to be broken. So that's definitely a plus on this mold. And I do like how they have all these windows like he does in the original cartoon. Taking a look at the back of the van here. Now, this one, unfortunately, isn't painted or anything, and neither of his taillights. Now, he is all red, so if you painted the taillights, will it be that noticeable? A little bit, but, you know, definitely not a deal breaker. And in terms of paint, I mean, yeah, he looks great. That front section looks fantastic. Silver there, got the Autobot emblem. Very nicely sculpted front section. The only thing I don't like on the side would be this big prominent joint there, that big hinge. But otherwise, I mean, it's much better than the War for Cybertron version with the feet sticking out in the back, right? Like you actually have back end here with a painted silver bumper. Looks really great. All the windows throughout look fantastic. And then we have the nice painted wheel rims. And these wheels roll beautifully, smoothly. Beautifully. And actually, the way he folds up, it actually almost looks like you can see through the van, which is pretty awesome. You don't actually see a whole bunch of kibble. Now, the only place where you kind of notice he does have a little bit of visible head syndrome in there. You can kind of see the head is in there. Now, it's inside the van and not on the bottom, but still. So, yeah, it looks pretty good. And then he does have these little tabs here, which I imagine will be on Ratchet, where they attach his lights. Or paint them as lights, I don't know. Now, for weapon storage, you can, I think, attach these guns up top here to what look like little van lights. So you can have them up there, and you can have them gunning down the Decepticons from on high, from his little van. Or you can tab them underneath. You have these little tabs down here on the legs, just little tabs on each side, and tab them together. And in terms of clearance, he does roll pretty smoothly. When you have the guns on the bottom, they do interfere a little bit. And I don't tend to store all my weapons on my Transformers when they're in vehicle mode. So when you don't have the guns on the bottom, I mean, it rolls effortlessly, no scraping of any kind. It's fantastic. And he's actually level too. He doesn't have a weird twist to the frame or anything. So now for some size comparisons. In vehicle mode, we have Clip Jumper and Jazz. And so those are two deluxe classes, right? The small end of the deluxe class. That's just kind of for scale. When they fit in, I think scale-wise, that's perfect. You know, medium-sized van and a sports car scale together very well. And then we have him with Jazz, who's a Porsche, of course. And I think their scale works out pretty well as well. And he definitely is a lot bigger than Jazz. So in terms of the Voyager argument, you know, in this case, you could probably see it a little bit. You know, he's definitely bigger than all the sports cars that we have. Only other one that might come close would be someone like Sideswipe, who I didn't break down for this review, but, you know, he's pretty good. If you were a deluxe class, you'd be a fairly large deluxe class, as he's bigger than the majority of deluxe classes that we get. And of course, he's a lot heavier. But, so that's that size comparison. Then for a Voyager, here is Inferno. So this is just kind of for an interesting scale. So Inferno, I always found that he's a good sized Voyager in robot mode, but his truck mode's a little bit small. He's a really compact fire truck. I think it just scale-wise, it's a little bit wrong. And that's been true for every iteration of Inferno that I've basically, that I own. So, but this is just, you know, Voyager size comparison. Does Ironhide make the cut? And I mean, he actually, in vehicle mode, I can kind of see it. You know, if you think about the overall plastic quality, or the overall amount of plastic, in this case, you know, this guy's a little bit taller. He definitely looks dense, he feels dense. So I can see it. I can see him being in the Voyager price point. But this guy, I think, is still more plastic overall. In terms of weight, Ironhide is actually a lot heavier, significantly. It's pretty noticeable. But just for your purposes, that is Ironhide scales with a decent-sized Voyager figure. So I think overall, this is a fantastic Ironhide. This might be the best mainline Ironhide ever, in my opinion. The only other one that might come close is the Bayverse Ironhide. I do love that figure as well. It's a fantastic Ironhide. But in terms of a G1 Ironhide, I think this wins hands down. This is fantastically done. Looks amazing. It's everything I could want in Ironhide. The only other thing that I've noticed is missing from him is, of course, that stripe that goes across the side. But that probably would not have looked that good. Although, I mean, it probably would have worked. You just have this big hinge here, so you'd have a gap there. But there is, like, all this is just solid plastic, so there isn't any painted plastic, so the color matching would be fine. But, you know, that aside, I think this is a fantastic figure, and I look forward to Ratchet when that comes out. And I'll definitely be sure to review him on the channel once I get a hold of him. So thanks again for watching this review. Please stay tuned for more Transformers reviews, and of course 2023, I'm bringing in tons of Star Wars reviews as well. If you are a Star Wars fan or want to get into Star Wars collecting, please be sure to check those out as well. Thank you, and as always, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next review. Thanks for watching.